It was always that simple. In order to get yourself your very own harem, all you gotta do is find a cute girl that is voiced by Sayori Hayami and have her voice every single archetype that has ever been existent in anime. Such is the concept behind Pseudo Harem, a new series in the summer 2024 anime season. I've watched the first 2 episodes of the series, and while the premise and the cuteness is definitely here, it's kind of one of those series where I just so badly want to like it because it just seems to work in certain ways. It's also a series that I'm finding to be very lacking of any sort of impact or purpose. But again, this is my first impressions of this series, so let's just get right into it. Pseudo Harem opens up with a girl named Rin who's going to a new school, and as a first year, she immediately goes to the drama club to join. Well, when she arrives there, she immediately bumps into a boy named Eiji, who is actually already a member of the drama club, and asks him where it's located. He points her in the direction and says, "Unfortunately, I am the only member of the club. I'm actually the president." And in her mind, she immediately thinks this is the beginning of a new story. And she's actually into this idea. But upon arriving at the actual drama club, come to find out there is a lot of members, and he was actually lying. Well, he was acting. Well, the actual president of the club has her act out a certain scenario, and she immediately floors everybody with her acting. And what follows this is we have these little brief moments where Rin is hanging out with Eiji, her senpai, and they discuss different things. And Rin very quickly finds out that her senpai is really into the idea of having a harem. And in order to play into his desire for a harem, she starts to act out different archetypes, like a tsundere, a super cool character, so on and so forth. Well, unbeknownst to her senpai, she's actually really in love with him. And even though all of the characters that she plays as are characters that are in love with him, it's never actually clear between the two of them that they both want a relationship here. Every time they hang out, they play out different scenarios, they act out different situations, all for the sake of their drama club, but at the same time, underneath, Rin is madly in love with him. And that's basically the gist of the show so far. So my thoughts on Pseudo Harem. Like I said at the very beginning, I am very, very mixed on this show because on one end, I find this show to be extremely sweet. It's very cutesy, it has a lot of fun with its concept, and yes, its concept itself is a very clever one. The idea of this guy really badly wanting a harem, and this girl technically plays into it. If he suddenly has the feeling for wanting to know what Tsundere-chan thinks of the situation, Rin will play into it by suddenly grabbing her hair, making little pigtails, and acting like a tsundere. And he absolutely loves it. Or if there's a situation where he kind of needs to be scolded for something, suddenly she'll turn to Cool-chan, and she gets on to him about it, and he really, really likes it. It's got a really cute concept here because, again, the entire time, Rin is really into him, and so she's technically able to use her different archetypes and different characters that she is acting out to fulfill that dream and desire that she has, even though in every situation, it's not her normal self. The more kind of tragic side of the whole situation is that, yes, whenever she does actually speak her own feelings, he immediately assumes that she's playing a different role. Like if suddenly she does get serious about, liking the situation they're in, he'll immediately go, "Oh, that must be Cool-chan." And immediately she's like, "Yeah, it's totally Cool-chan." And it completely flusters her, and then they go about their day. So again, it's got a very cute concept here. I do like this idea behind this. And yes, the big plus side of this whole situation is the seiyuu that is playing Rin is, again, your Forger seiyuu, Sayori Hayami. She's an absolutely incredible seiyuu, and she's able to nail every single one of these characters. Now, unfortunately for the seiyuu side, the opposite effect is not so much pleasing. Eiji's seiyuu, her senpai's seiyuu, is Nobuhiko Okamoto. Yes, Bakugo. He is extremely obnoxious. He's constantly screaming. He's constantly got that raspiness to his voice. And so he kind of just completely counterbalances the great work that she's doing with Rin. Now, yes, I'm sorry for anybody that's a massive fan of that seiyuu. He doesn't work for me, especially in this scenario, because kind of similar to Bakugo, he's constantly screaming. It does technically help ramp up a lot of the comedy moments, but at the same time, there's times where it kind of gets a bit too much. While I think this concept is cute, I do also see, one, it's getting repetitive, but more so, two, there doesn't seem like there's much thought put into it. None of these scenarios where they get together and she plays out an archetype is very interesting or a lot of thought put into it. It just feels very stale. For the most part, it's just, "Hey, I have to do this thing. Well, ask me with one of your archetypes." She does the archetype. He goes, "Oh my gosh, that's great." Cut to the next scene. "Hey, this situation's going on. Well, let me do, Cool-chan. Oh, that's Cool-chan. Oh my gosh, that's so great." Cut to the next scene. It seems like it's getting very repetitive, and again, there's not really much thought process put into it to make it feel fresh or interesting in any way. it does seem like they're trying to mix things up by, one, yes, technically ramping up Ren's desire to actually have a relationship, but because it's a rom-com, that's never going to happen. But they are trying to spice it up by adding new archetypes to the mix, and I'm hoping that's not all they're going to be doing. Yes, in the second episode, they start talking about the little sister that she has, and then suddenly he wants a little sister archetype, so now she's got the little sister archetype to pop up every now and then. So in the end, it kind of just turns into one of those shows where it's got a cool premise early on, but at some point you realize that's really all you had, right? Like, this is one of those prime examples of a mangaka that's like, I got this really cool idea, and the publisher's like, that's incredible idea. And then after the first volume, they're like, I don't know what to do with it now. Like, they just fired up the car and took off before they even got a cup into the tank. But who knows? Hopefully in the future they have something else to kind of throw into it, or hopefully some of these skits get a little bit more interesting than just that whole concept. But for now, that's my fears. Visually, this is where I have my biggest problem. I really don't like how this show looks. I'm fine with the character designs, and it definitely looks like it is trying to capture the style of mangaka. My problem is that the character designs themselves are always changing. Like, every single shot, it feels like I'm looking at a different character, even though it's the same two characters. Yes, I do acknowledge that they do an interesting thing with Ren's design whenever she does a different archetype. If she's doing the tsundere character, yes, she grabs her ponytails, and her face looks a little more rounded. Whereas if she is Cool-chan, suddenly her chin's a little sharper. So yes, I do acknowledge that her design is purposely changing whenever she changes different characters. But whenever she's not doing an actual character, or Eiji himself, their character designs constantly look different, and it's extremely distracting. This studio, I'm guessing they have maybe multiple groups are working on this, or possibly different key artists, or maybe they switch character designers at some point, but they cannot keep these characters on model and consistent whatsoever. And again, I wouldn't mind it so much, but it's extremely distracting, and I cannot keep an eye on what's happening in the show because I'm constantly going, wait, okay, he looks different again. Oh, okay, he looks different again. But I'm sure a lot of you guys out there will probably never notice that. It's just something that grabbed my attention. I noticed it in the PV, and it was just 10 times worse in the actual show. But anyhow, that is my thoughts so far on Pseudo Harem. A cool concept. I really like the concept. Again, this idea of getting a harem, but it's just from one person who's just acting all these characters. It's got a super sweetness to it. It's super cute a lot of the time. My heart breaks for this girl, and I want her to get this guy if that's what she wants so badly, even though I hate his voice. But it just doesn't feel like there's enough creativity in there. It doesn't feel like it has much legs to it, and it's already getting really repetitive. So I'm not even sure. I might give it another episode, and if nothing really changed in that next episode, I'm probably going to drop it. Just mainly because there's just too many shows out this season. So that's my thoughts so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below. Comment. Let me know what you think of the series so far if you're going to be checking it out. Additionally, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe before you leave so you can get on my content. I'm doing first impressions of all the shows this season. If you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have ways to support the channel in the description below. Greatly appreciate what it does. And until next time, y'all take care.